What's going on, guys? My name's Ghosty, and welcome to my Elemental Interactions Guide, where I explain the different interactions available in Spellbreak. The 6 Elemental Gauntlets provide excellent damage and utility on their own, but with the powers combined of 2 different gauntlets, you can create some magnificent interactions to help you pave your way to the victory screen. There are a variety of ways to combine the elements, and each have their own unique effect from crowd control, damage, and zone control. Doing elemental interactions may not always be the most effective thing to do in certain situations, but it is important to know the most commonly seen interactions to know how to respond to any given situation. One of the most seen interactions, and one you're probably very familiar with already, is called Dragonfire. Dragonfire, or DF for short, is the combination of any source of fire and a toxic cloud. There are a multitude of different ways to activate Dragonfire, but the most commonly used is simply throwing a toxic cloud at your opponent and shooting the cloud with a fireball. It is important to learn the timing of when to shoot your fireball, as you want the cloud to ignite and deal its burst damage as quickly as possible before they can make their escape. Fire is also such a commonly used gauntlet that you don't even need to have a fire gauntlet to use Dragonfire consistently. Just look for fire puddles on the floor, or even throw your Dragonfire through a firewall for it to explode on impact. One of the coolest versions of Dragonfire is the Dragonfire Tornado, or referred to as the DF-Nado. This is not your typical elemental interaction because it requires a total of 3 elements to achieve. It is a combination of the tornado, combining it with toxic or fire, and then adding the other element of toxic or fire to create an ascending triple explosion of gloriousness. The most common way to achieve this combination is to play Tempest with the Spellslinger talent and quickly swap between your fire and toxic gauntlet to create the DF-Nado. The difficulty in effectively using this interaction is that due to going through so many animations, it can be common for your opponent to already moved away from the tornado. It's also only a vertical explosion, and due to this, they usually only take 1 hit of the explosion unless they are playing Tempest and attempting to utilize their skill Updraft in that moment. DF-Nado is certainly a fun and crazy interaction to attempt to use, but can be very difficult to use effectively, and you're usually better off spending your time using a different option. Other common interactions to be wary of is pretty much anything involving lightning. You can create an area of lightning by shooting water, ice, or toxic puddles on the floor, which will shock players if they are on it and make them unable to use spells, sorceries, and runes. You can also shoot toxic clouds and tornadoes for the same effect, and can be used effectively against toxicologists or tempests trying to use their sorceries for mobility. Always be cognizant of the fact that players may be running the talent Harmony, which grants them the immunity to shock. One of my favorite sorceries to use, not only due to the multitude of ways it can be used, but also because of the effective and fun interactions it can utilize, is Boulder Fall. You can block all projectiles with boulders like toxic spray and lightning bolts, but even toxic clouds and other boulders. You can throw boulders through flame walls or hit it with a fireball before it lands to create a flaming meteor which leaves a giant fire puddle on the ground. You can also shoot a boulder in the air with Ice Lance, creating a frozen boulder which leaves icy mists on the ground which will slow your opponents and then freeze them over time. The most effective way to use frozen boulders in combat, and proves to provide amazing value, is to throw your boulder through the Frost Gauntlet sorcery Flash Freeze, which will instantly freeze it as it passes through the icy shell. This is a great way to get some quick damage in and slow your opponents, which leaves you some room to line up an easy shot with your Frost Gauntlet. Do be careful though when you cast your Flash Freeze, because someone can just as easily throw a boulder through the shell, slowing and freezing you, which will put you in a tough situation. On the subject of Frost Gauntlet sorcery Flash Freeze, there is a certain type of interaction that isn't a combination of the elements, but rather a cancellation of them. The icy shell created by Flash Freeze's sorcery blocks lightning bolts, fireballs, and wind shears, giving you a safe area to weather their attack. Similarly to Boulder Fall though, players can throw a toxic cloud through the shell to create an icy mist on impact, which can slow and freeze you. One final elemental interaction I want to go over with you today are Fire Nados and Toxic Nados. As by their name, you can mix the Wind Gauntlet sorcery Tornado with fire to create a Fire Tornado, which will deal damage to opponents within the vicinity, pull them in, and apply Ignite, which deals damage over time. If you mix the tornado with toxic, it also deals damage to opponents within the vicinity, pulls them in, and applies corrosion, which deals damage over time to their armor only. Fire and Toxic Nados are great tools to use to control areas on the battlefield and force your opponents to take a different route or stop the chase completely, giving you some breathing room to reset and get back into the fight in a healthy state. Keeping all these interactions in mind will definitely set you apart from other players and help you understand the chaos on the battlefield. This only scratches the surface of the possibilities with elemental interactions, and part of the journey in Spellbreak is discovering all the different combinations. I've put together a couple of graphics to show the basic interactions possible between gauntlets and the spell and sorcery combinations possible. There will be a link in the description below so you can look and try the interactions out yourself in practice or in the middle of combat. Stay tuned for more guides and videos for Spellbreak to help you improve as a player. This is Ghosty. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitch and Twitter for gameplay and updates. If there's an elemental interaction that's your favorite, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the HoloLands.